So trying to hold on to the outside world with a high bank account and storage of food and so on are things which may not last necessarily. But the only support we can count on and the only help we have is within us. And that is now, as long as we are now in a relatively peaceful time, it is our great opportunity to establish that connection, the inner connection with divinity, through meditations, through prayers, through dialoguing, through actually speaking loud with it. I mean, there is no harm to speak whatever you think with God, that He is with you and He listens to you. So having that close connection.
Welcome to the Spiritual Forum, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I want to send a shout out to Robin, who is a monthly donor to the Spiritual Forum podcast, prayer, and retreat ministry. Very, very happy for my monthly donors. And just remember, if you benefit from this podcast, send me an email, revcarolsaunders@gmail.com. If you want to make a donation, large or small, doesn't matter to me. It's a way to have your energy flow in a giving and receiving cycle. And I will happily receive, and it will go into this message of hope, inspiration, and awakening. So let me introduce you to my guest, who is a return guest, Hans Wilhelm. I'm so happy to have him back. The last time he was here was in November of 2022. And during that time, we talked about the activities of projection and forgiveness. Hans is a mystic, author, and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, including some that he did together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies, translated into 30 languages. And for more than 10 years, Hans has created 140 short YouTube videos where he visually explains the spiritual laws of the universe. It's a fabulous YouTube channel at Life Explained, and his website is lifeexplained.com. So you can watch these as he draws the dynamics of the laws and see how all the dots connect. And these videos have been watched by over 18 million viewers, and I'm one of them. And they're available for free at lifeexplained.com. So in this episode, we're going to delve into 3 of his videos, and these 3 are How to Transcend War, Why Do We Kill, and Who Rules the World. So welcome, Hans.
Oh, thank you, Carol, for inviting me. Delighted to be back again.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be back with you. I do love your videos. I love how in like 8 to 12 minutes you can succinctly and pictorially express spiritual laws. It's such a brilliant way to share knowledge with people. And you have a big following. And what I love about it is not only do you convey the message so well, but, it's something you can look at over and over again, or just you just need a little boost about, forgiveness or whatever the topic is. You can click on that video and very quickly get it back into your consciousness. So I think you're making a huge contribution in the world.
Yeah, also to make it to myself, because I'm watching those videos myself. But I see
Exactly.
pictures some 8 years ago, and I see this, oh, this was quite, and it, as you have said, it does change the chemistry in one's body, some of the videos, which they build you up, gives you some hope, some more confidence, and suddenly you are less confused. So I really find my own videos helpful, but then again, the basis for these videos comes from much deeper sources, and I'm just only using the information that I find and that were given to me and produce these videos out of that one. So it goes much deeper. It goes always all the way back to the 7-dimensional reality from where we get this information, which I try to simplify here in my videos.
Yes, and can you describe a little bit or tell us a little bit about the source that you use for your videos?
Yeah, it comes through what we would call prophecy, most of it. And I would have to add that I have been on the spiritual path for more than 60 years now. But over the last 35, 40 years, I am very much studying and trying to put into my life the teachings that come through a woman in Germany. Her name is Gabriele. You won't find her on the internet because she doesn't want any personality cult. she believes, and I will agree with that, you have to follow your inner guidance, not an outer guidance, not a teacher, not a guru, or not a priest, or anything like this. So that is her goal, and she gives us this information in books and revelations. And I found that these in revelation incredibly powerful and of a depth which I have not found in any other spiritual path which I have studied plenty of. And I really find a great comfort. And I think most of all, the few tasks which are given to us and are suggestions, if I follow them, they really work for me. And I think that's where the proof is in the pudding. So when I apply these suggestions, then I can say they really change my chemistry, my well-being, and how I look at the world from moment to moment.
Yeah, it's practical spiritual living. I love that. And I love that she's not interested in being a guru, not interested in having a lot of followers. She's directing it like Jesus directing it, pointing the finger inside us. And that's our ultimate guide. I have to admit that I did do a little Google search on her. I'm like, what, who is she? She doesn't have a Wikipedia page. She's not on social media, all of that. But I did get one of her books, and I saw that in at least the book I have, The Alpha and Omega, she does tell her
Yes.
story in the beginning, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not really the topic of our talk today, but I kinda wanted to give that background for people. And I agree with you. It's like if you receive or see spiritual teachings, try it, and then you don't have to say it's true right off the bat. Try it and then see what it does in your life. And then if it works in your life, then seek more. But we tend to judge things really quickly, like that isn't right or that's truth. We got to try it on and see how it works. And it really has demonstrated well in your life.
Yeah, and I mean, Gabi also once it says, more information and more intellectual knowledge can only detrimental be on our spiritual path. If we know too much and don't actualize it in our life, we are getting heavy-headed, and we fall over our own brilliance, our intellect. So it can be very confusing when we study too much and don't try to internalize and use this information. Therefore, it says, use it step by step, and then you will grow from within and not from your head.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point because I do think that we tend to go to seminars, we go places, we read books, everybody becomes an expert in something, and I love the idea that the head becomes so big we topple over. We gotta put it in our lives.
Yeah, and she always
Yeah.
says, God is ingenious simplicity. When we understand how simple it all fits together, and this really boggled my mind when I did these drawings, how all these dots perfectly fit together, how karma works, reincarnation, how the cause of an effect, and all how this all works, and where it comes from, and how it comes back to us, and how we influence the world through these things. I found it absolutely amazing because all these puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. So that's why I'm very much convinced that this path is right for me. And I have no intention or a desire to convince anybody. I always offer these videos. If somebody likes it, great. If doesn't like it, it's also great because we all have a different time plan. We all have got different levels of awareness and what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So I merely offer these videos and I have zero interest of convincing anybody. It's not like Jehovah Witnesses or something.
Yeah, that's a lovely energy. It's not about converting or making anybody right or wrong. It's like, "Here's something I have. Take it if you'd like, try it and
Right,
see if it works for you." So
right.
well, when I connected with you, asking you to come back on the show, because I really loved the conversation we had a year and a half ago, you asked me what specific videos that I want to talk about. And the ones that I picked were around war. And the reason I did that is because when I look out in the world, there's a lot of that going on right now. And, there's the Ukraine thing, there's the Israeli Palestinian thing, there's Iran. I mean, things are kind of heating up around the world. And I think there's people who think we're on the brink of World War III. I'm not going to presume any of those things, but I do think that we do, as human beings, we have this pattern of war and over and over and over again. And we're in the middle of some now, maybe on the brink of more. So I thought it would be really wise for us to talk about the videos about how to transcend war and what is war and why do we do this at all. So those are the ones I selected, and hopefully it will help give people some spiritual tools about how to be in these times and what to do and what is our role. So, can we start by just talking about energetically what war is?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to start, because whenever I look at a situation, I remove myself and look from a bird's eye view, big, long picture, distant picture, I step back from the tapestry of life and see how this all fits together. And in war, it's a very good, helpful tool for me, because we know from Einstein, Tesla, and everybody else that we are all everything is nothing but energy, frequency, and vibration. This is everything. This is the computer. This is you and I, our body, the molecules, the atoms. Everything is merely energy and vibrations. So the whole uh, universe around us and within us, and that we are made, is nothing but vibrations and energy. When we think about that, then we can also understand that the highest form vibration is love. That is the highest form. This is where we came from. This is our origin. This is our true essence, love. And I don't mean the love between two human beings. I mean the really selfless love, the unconditional, unlimited, all-inclusive love, which is our true essence. And from that love level, which we all were in at one time, we were these perfect spirit beings. A certain number of these spirit beings, long time ago when creation just started, wanted to have their own creation and removed themselves from this pure reality of seven-dimensional reality. And what they did is they used the energy and turned it around. They used the positive energy to the negative energy and removed themselves slowly out of this pure heaven, the seventh dimension, and fell into what we call the temporal reality. And this is what in the Bible it calls the fall of angels. And it appears that most of us here on earth are part of this gang who just one day decided, let's make our own creation. And as they removed themselves and turned around these energies, the vibrations and energies became coarser and wilder, and the opposite of it is basically matter. And here in matter, we have got, which is crystallized vibration, crystallized light ether, crystallized consciousness, which is all the same. And we are here in this very dense, difficult, three-dimensional reality of time and space, cause and effect, and contrasts. We don't have any of this in the pure heaven where we came from. And now the idea to create a new creation, the basic motivation or the basic tool what they use, the angel, is to undo the present, the divine creation. And so that their main goal is destruction, destruction, destruction. And that's why whenever we find the powers unleashing themselves in wars, in fights, in arguments, this is all destruction. It comes from the original fall that they wanted undo. They wanted to destroy whatever has been created. And that is a negative energy which works so strongly here in the temporal reality. It does not exist in the absolute reality where we come from. Our temporal reality, the universe we look into, which seems to be very, very big and immense and unlimited, but as God said in one of the Revelation, it's as small as a sand corn on the beach, a kernel of sand on the beach. It is tiny. The true reality is gigantic and beyond our comprehension and understanding. So all the negative energies are purposely created to destroy the existing reality. I know this sounds all very weird for anybody who hasn't heard that before, but if you really think about it, this is basically what's taking place. And when we look now at planet Earth, where all these wars are, where have been these wars for thousands of years? Mostly it is in and around in the Middle East. It's no coincidence. And the Middle East, and the Bible is full of wars. If you read the majority of Bible, it's probably a description of wars. So for tens of thousands of years, there was always this war area. Of course, war was everywhere else as well, but it's concentrated on that area. So what happens here? Why is war so strong at the moment? And what motivates people? And in many cases, there are astral beings, which are also souls who have left the pure heavens like you and I, but they've fallen so deep that they have no more energy left. And they need energy. And that energy, what they are using, is called lush energy. That comes from whenever people are fighting, are struggling, when there is war, wherever there is hatred, there is a negative energy, because this is their lifeblood. So they're instigating all these kinds of situations where people fight amongst each other, amongst themselves. You can have a fight with yourself. And also in groups, like in wars, in neighborhoods, in towns and cities. That is a negative energy which wants us to be at each other's throat so that we ooze out that lush energy, which is their food. A very interesting side point here, a friend pointed out recently that this story is not all that new. We have seen it in a movie. And I forgot all about it. It was some 20 years ago for children. It's called Monster Inc. I think it was Disney movie, animated. And actually, the monsters are need energy. And what they do, they send the monsters out at night to scare the little kids. And their screams and so on are the energy which they need for survival. I find it very funny. I laughed about it that Hollywood always has a lot of things right in advance. What
They're
life
always telling us what's true.
It is for some reason and I totally forgot about it. But yes, that video clearly shows how the negative energy is lifeblood for those who need it. So they are very interested that we constantly live in struggle and fight. And that is only part of the story. The other story, which I cover in the book, Who Rules the World, or maybe I make a break, and if you have some question, I can continue that.
Yeah, let's break just a little bit, because it is, you would think, I mean, I've been thinking about karma, and I've been thinking about, cause and effect, and, our souls recycle or go around, come around, reincarnation. You would think that at some point we wouldn't just fall for this over and over again, because you can see the divisive forces out there. You can see that there's stuff out there in the media that's always trying to divide us, whether it's political divide or social divide or countries, or, I mean, everywhere. Enemies are being put up there for us to not like. We are falling for this divide over and over again, versus recognizing this is at the root of these things that we don't like, fights and war. So anyway, I just think it's so interesting that humanity continues to succumb to division and othering, and that leads us into war. But we'll get to the antidote later, I think, because it's gonna be the spiritual path, I know, but I've been just watching people, and it just fascinates me.
Yeah. It's our ego which loves to be fearful and afraid or guilty, whatever lives in the past and in the future. And since we all have still an ego, more or less, a strong one, we fall easily for all kinds of awful rumors, stories, and love. Our ego loves it to make us feel, because again, it creates negativity. Whenever we are in this fearful, worrying kind of state, we are giving energy to the negative entities which are
Mhm.
surrounding us individually and group-wise. So they welcome this stuff. They just feed on us when we fall, when our ego falls into the being afraid of the tomorrow and being guilty about the yesterday, but not living in the present, because in the present we're always okay, as Byron Katie says, except from your thoughts. And you are okay right now, aren't you? And it's true. It's only our thoughts which keep us either in a negative mood or sometimes in a positive mood. We have got positive thoughts. But when we are in the here and now, we are usually 99, 100% actually fine. It's only our
Mhm, mhm.
thoughts which gives us the trouble.
Yeah. I'm thinking, if you could I could just keep at the forefront of my mind that I don't want to be I don't wanna provide food. I don't wanna provide negativity and become food. I mean, the idea of being a slave to that is something that's really anathema to me. So, it seems like perhaps if we kept that in the front of our mind, that we don't want to be the food, that we'll make another choice.
I suggest people who want to know exactly how it works, watch my video on evil. I explain it very more detailed. You see how it all connects on the video called Evil. So that's how evil works on us, in us, and through us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you can go ahead and go forward.
No, no more questions? Not okay.
I think we're good on that. I mean, I think well, in your video, you do talk about how war is a purification process, and you also talk about how old karmic burdens return back to the originators via war. Can you explain that?
Yeah. We also have to remember that before we incarnated, we see what we call a life review, what we do on that one as well, where in rough outline of our life, what we can expect we will have, like all the positive, all the important things, like whom we would marry when we get sick, when we have an accident, etc., etc. And this includes also major wars situation, in which we may incarnate or live in and go through. But we know that these negative occurrences in our future life are actually here to help us undo our karma, our karmic burden. And we agree to it wholeheartedly, and we say yes to our incarnation, because all our karmic burden, which comes from previous lifetimes and through wrongful acting, work, speaking, and thinking against the law of love, have accumulated, and it's very difficult to undo them or expiate them in the spiritual realms. It's very, very painful and very long. Whilst if we come here to Earth, to planet Earth, for a very short time, which is only 25,000 days, it's nothing. The older they get, you more realize how very, very short this is. That is just like visiting a movie house for 2 hours and you forget yourself. And this is why we are in these 24,000 hours, we can undo so much karma. And that is through an illness, through wars, through other pain, to loss, to loss of fates, and you name it, which may from our earthly perspective sound horrendous. But from our soul perspective, it's a cleansing. So a lot of souls that are experiencing the war zones right now may be clearing up their karma. Now, this should not allow us to say, oh, therefore it's justified and therefore it's okay and it's something wonderful that happens to them. That's not for up to us to make such judgment or assumption. Everybody has their own kind of life and their own kind of soul burden, and this soul burden is only between him and God or her and God. So we are the reason why these souls incarnate is to undo our karma. And some of us go purposely in very difficult situations, like in the Middle East, where things are happening, or in Ukraine. It is quite possible that these souls have known it well before that these things happen. Now, as I said, the preview is only a rough outline. Still, there can be many other changes happening in the meantime, and the ego of the leaders can involve and make a war much stronger and can also diffuse a war. So we always have the free will to undo all the karma we have and also to face the karma in a way that we no longer create more karma. Does it answer the question?
Yeah, and I'm reminded of the saying back in probably the 70s. So, what if they gave a war and no one showed up?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have that, but we are so easily enticed in it. And this is in my video, Why Do We Kill? I explain that one. We all are by nature loving, helping beings. When there is a disaster, whether it's 9/11, Haiti, wherever, we come out in masses and help with finance, with physically going there and helping. People are by in nature always helpful. And this has been proven scientifically. We are not by nature bad or evil or selfish. We are unselfish by nature. But unfortunately, there is a lot of interest, mostly male-dominated interest, which I cover in my video, Who Rules This World, which are interested in getting our energy. And what do? They become our leaders. And they says, look, vote for me and I take charge of you and your life. This is not only in the political arena, it's also in the religious one. It can be even the company, the bankers, whoever we surrender our energy to. And here we have the fact that particularly in the countries where there are rulers, there we go there, they give us wonderful, they give an anthem to sing sort of, and this is all contrary to life because we are all brothers and sisters. But what the leaders do, they separate us immediately. They tell us that we are better, that we are the chosen one, that we are the master race, that we are the greatest country in the world, etc., etc. All these slogans people fall for. And as Einstein said, patriotism is just one of the sickness of a nation. It is a very negative thing to identify only with this group of people and think that we are in any level better than another group. And so they separate us from other people. So now we have got the us and the them. And then they make a fence around. Lots of countries have fences around it. So nobody can invade them and vice versa. They, of course, say it's all for protection. But in truth, eventually it is for attack, because they will also give us guns. And guns are always made for killing. Eventually, every gun and every rocket will be launched. And that means that, as Byron Katie says, defense is the first step to war. So we are falling for all these things. We fall, and then we have got symbols. We wear flags on our lapel and or on our neck, the sign of a certain religion, etc. So we go ahead, we consciously decide to limit our identity to small groups of people. And when we do this, and when we surrender to this group of people, like I am only a Muslim, or I am only gay, or what I'm only a Mexican, or whatever it is, whatever limitations I do, I exclude all the others. And I forget this, all the others are my brothers and sisters. So the leader in my group can basically dictate anything what I will then have to do. They have come up with great logic. Oh, this is for self-defense. This is sort of to keep the blood clean. Or they've got wonderful sentences which the masses fall for. The motivations are very easy to motivate people to do these things. So we are in the situation that we have given too often our energy over to other leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, social leaders. It can be racial leaders in many forms. Now, all these leaders may have had some positive effect as well. Like Martin Luther King set a lot of people free, for instance, and Gandhi did the same. But when these energies are misused for the benefit and grandeur of the leaders, which often is the case, and often the stupidity of the leader, then we are in a big trouble. And we had that very much so. I think we all agreed, without getting too political. But when we suddenly 9/11 was there, and we made this war into another country without any real foundation to do that, it was all made up things, and we killed over 1 million people just as a reaction to what had happened to us. So they got us going through lies, and they always have gotten us going through lies, through every war. I will stop here. I don't want to get more political.
That's okay. I'll try to go in a different direction, because I recently listened to a 18 or 19-hour podcast by Dan Carlin on World War I. And World War I, that was so interesting because it started with the assassination of this Austrian duke. And anyway, without getting into all the politics at the time, Germany felt that it needed to defend itself because it had Russia on one side and France on the other, and they were allied with Austria. So in order to defend themselves, they went through Belgium to go attack France. And all of World War I, which was ridiculously bloody, something like 20 million people killed. And it went on for years and years, and it was absolutely despicable when you listen to the details of what these young men had to go through. But it all started with defense. It all started with, we need to protect each other by going on the offense. And that happens every time. And they weren't even attacked. And it's going on now with, I think, a few Americans, 3 Americans were killed. And now it's like we need to go bomb Iran. So I think this idea, to me, that we surrender our sovereignty, our strength, our power, who we are as spiritual beings, and as human beings, we surrender to these authorities, to these leaders, and we do it over and over again, whether it's to a politician or it's to a doctor or it's to a school authority or whatever. But that's the crux of the whole thing, that we've forgotten who we are so much that we surrender our energy to this leader, and this leader often doesn't have our best interest in mind. Another thing I just recently watched, have you seen the movie Downfall before? It's about Hitler's last days.
No, I will write it down. No, I haven't. I
Oh,
don't think so.
it's so good. It's a German film, and it's the last few days of Hitler's power, and they're in the bunker, and Berlin's going down completely, 100%, but there's still all of these sycophants around Hitler, and you're thinking, "Why don't you just walk away at this point? Go home to your family. Get out of here because it's going down." But there was so much surrender of energy to the leader, and to me, everyone says, "Oh, Hitler was this evil, evil being." To me, the problem is that we surrender our energy to it. What if we didn't? What if we didn't? Where would that person's energy go? It would go nowhere. But we keep giving up our energy. And I
They,
think that's what causes the problems.
yeah, if the person who knows to manage the media, Hitler was the first one who used the radio at the time. He managed the media. That's why other people fell. So whenever we see some political leader who really manages the media, he has got the followers. Yeah,
But I mean, I feel like it still comes down to why do we need to follow? Why do we need to follow? If I'm present, I'm good enough right here. If I believe that I'm an eternal soul, there's nothing to fear. But the ego just latches on to fear so quickly and
yeah,
help me, save me,
no,
protect me. But we have so much power as individuals who know that we're connected. Individuals, if we stop playing the separation and othering game, we, the people, have so much power. And I think that leaders know that, but we keep falling for the games over and over again and saying, we'll follow you instead of, my own inner intuition.
it, it's
So
en- it's energy. It's always trying to get energy, our energy, which they need and they live off and yeah, and get rich off and every form and get respect. And then once they're on a high position, they don't let go. They want to stay there forever. As you've mentioned earlier, it can be the school board, it can be the everybody else around us. And it's difficult to be alert about everything. You have to watch the school board, you have got your bank account, you have to watch the political situation. There's a lot going on. And sometimes there's, oh, I'll let them do it. I just give up on it. I think that's what most people do. And this
yes,
is these leaders are counting on that we are basically surrender this energy because I just don't feel like doing that anymore. Like I give over my technical stuff on the internet to my technical guy because I don't want to learn this whole stuff anymore. It's too late for me.
yeah, that's true. We also get distracted and we're not really paying attention and seeing what's happening sometimes. And also, do you think though that some of these the leaders that don't have our best interests in mind, do you think they've incarnated they've incarnated for their own soul journey, and maybe part of it is to behave in this way so that we can either choose to continue to follow or not. And so in a way, they're providing this opportunity for us to make a different choice. We just keep making the same choice, but in a way they're serving us.
It's a slippery slope they are going on to that. And basically, you can say all the karma which the Jewish people had are now eliminated because we had somebody like Hitler. We can't say that.
Yeah.
So because that is very difficult to say. No, Hitler or anybody else has the free will. And if he misuses that free will in whatever form it is, he is responsible to that free will. And so are all the people who followed him. So we can't just say he was doing a service for other people to
Yeah.
get rid of karma. Besides, we are not here to judge other people anyway in this kind of respect when it comes to karma. But we all have the free will, individually, collectively. A nation has a free will. And we just have to try to best to keep our own ship on right course. And the captain shouldn't be a politician. The captain in our life should always be within, whether we call Christ or God. That's the only one to rely on and to work with and to steer us through the storms. And there will be many more storms to come, most likely. But the only hold we can have is within us. As Christ said, the kingdom is within you. So trying to hold on to the outside world with a high bank account and storage of food and so on are things which may not last necessarily. But the only support we can count on and the only help we have is within us. And that is now, as long as we are now in a relatively peaceful time, it is our great opportunity to establish that connection, the inner connection with divinity through meditations, through prayers, through dialoguing, through actually speaking loud with it. I mean, there is no harm to speak whatever you think with God. That He is with you and He listens to you. So having that close connection, I believe, is the strongest, how shall I say, support we can have in case things are getting worse also where we are living.
So during these times, what is ours to do, because we can, is to really solidify and hone our relationship with the divine, our connection to all, to really engage in spiritual practice and go deeper into ourselves so that when times get tough, we have the fortitude, we have the spiritual center, we have a grounding. We know that God, the source, is our source. Because I think that what happens is during good times, we tend to get lazy and just kind of enjoy life. And then when something happens that causes us to be fearful, we don't have the equipment, or we actually do from a divine true standpoint, but we haven't honed it in our physical bodies, so that when something causes us to be afraid, then we become reactive, defensive, become, even violent because we're afraid. So what you're saying is this is a time for us to really get close and connected to the divine source within us.
Definitely. I think that's your purpose to be here. I'm part purpose, I'm sure. That's what I think I'm here. And of course, also do I learn it too for myself. And not only to make the connection and create the connection, but also learn so to surrender. Because our ego still always wants to have certain things going certain way. This person must live, they can't be sick, etc. We have got very specific ideas how our world should be in peaceful times as well as at war times. Because we don't have the overall view of our life and what our lessons are helpful for us. And therefore, I think it's helpful to learn to surrender to whatever life serves us right now and find in every situation the positive, because nothing negative can exist without the energy in it, and the energy is always divinity. And when we look for the divinity in the most difficult situation and train ourselves slowly to find the positive in it, that will help us as well in the future time, very much so. I always like to mention the elderly friend I had a long time ago, and one day we were talking about what are our various techniques to survive in difficult times. And the first thing she says, well, whenever something happens to me, the first thing I say, thank you. And at that time, I says, well, that's quite a statement. It says, well, I know that eventually I will find out that whatever has happened to me is for my benefit. But of course, I don't see that at the moment when it hits, whatever hits the fan, but it is always for my benefit. Nothing can happen to me which is not in a way for my benefit. So even the most difficult situation, the most horrendous situations, if we can catch ourselves in time and remove ourselves a little bit from the situation and look at it from a slightly distance, we may find the positive element very quickly and see us where it might guide us to a different kind of awareness, a different kind of situation, or even a different location as well. So in every difficult situation, there's always a positive. And for that, we can be grateful. And the moment we are grateful, truly grateful, our whole energy and vibration changes. I made a video on that as well, how grateful is so powerful that it changes our whole physiology within, all the different kind of hormones which are come up. And suddenly, out of a dark cloud situation, we do not feel fearful. We feel, in a way, grateful and also maybe excited, because the word fear, F-E-A-R, basically means feeling excited and ready, because it means something is happening here, which is actually, wow, bring it on. It can be very interesting. See how I cope with it. That, of course, is an attitude which we can't overnight develop. We can learn it from moment to moment. When we have a difficult situation, small difficult situation today, try it out, see how it works, say thank you and see, well, bring it on, see how I cope with it. And then look back. How did you cope with it? Maybe pretty good. The moment we have the distance from the situations, we are usually much better. We can respond instead of reacting.
Okay, so tell me the acronym again for fear, because I've heard false evidence appearing real, but I like this
Yeah.
one better.
Feeling excited and ready.
Feeling
And
excited and ready.
I have that in my video on fear, which I find very interesting because the emotion of fear is very much the same like excitement. And I give the example of a roller coaster. Now, I love roller coaster. I find them fantastic, and I just go scream and go down. My wife hates it. It's like a death sentence. She would sit next to me, have the same experience, but she screams out of real horror. So the feeling is the sensation in the body is the same, but she interprets it differently than I do. And when we interpret this fearful sensation in our body, maybe as a positive state, say, wow, now something great is happening, some adventures are happening. I don't have to go to Netflix to see my adventure action movie. Now the action movie is in my life and see how I do with it. It gives us a different attitude. And only if you do it once in a while, remember this. It is so helpful. And as I said, the time of peace right now, that's the time when we can try it out in small moments from moment to find the positive as fast as possible in the most difficult situation. When somebody cuts us off in the traffic, when somebody gives us a nasty phone call, when we get an awful email, when small things so happen in our life, immediately, what's the positive in here? Maybe I have to drive a little more careful in future. Maybe I have to think about this person who gave me a phone call differently and respond. So there is a lot of things we can do, but nothing happens to us, as Byron Katie says. Everything happens for us.
For us. Yeah. I love that, and I love the idea of thank you. You know, thank you, thank you. And you really have to release the, attachment to the outcome because the positive may not come. I mean, it will come, but it may not come in your lifetime, may not come right away. You don't know what it is, but I think what that takes is a lot of faith or a knowing that even though I don't have the evidence that everything's gonna be alright or there's something positive here, I do trust that. I do know that there is good here. But the idea of meeting adversity with a thank you, I think is really wonderful. I just did a really short video on curiosity because I think that's another thing. When something happens to you, you get the phone call or something happens to you, and rather than make up all the stories in your mind about what's going on with that person, just stay curious, stay a little bit in wonder and not knowing because we don't know everything. And that also gives you kind of some space for the vibration to rise up.
Yeah, I think in the four commitments, or what it says, one of them is make no assumptions. I think that's a very key, not assuming anything. The Byron Katie says the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure that this is happening bad for you, etc. And we never know for sure. We make these assumptions always, and these assumptions drive us crazy because I know for sure that this person is a bad person, etc. That's why I did it. But I don't know that. I don't know that this is actually may have a positive effect on me. So making assumptions, and I fall for that as well too often, is it is a key element to find out, I think you're here on the wrong track. And I think the curiosity, as you say, be more open to what may unfold is a
Yeah,
much
who
healthier.
knows? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think when we do that, they're this, that's when we're feeding the dark forces. "Here,
Mm.
have some food."
Yeah. Yeah. They are gratefully says, "Thank you." They take it from us easily. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Why don't we talk a little bit about who rules the world and the imbalance of the feminine and the masculine or the male and the female energies? You did allude to that a little bit in the beginning, but what is the antidote to that? Like, we've gotten this imbalance where the masculine is in charge, and even women who become in charge take on masculine energies. I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen within my own self. If I'm gonna be a leader, if I'm gonna be a manager or whatever, I've got to shore my shore up my energies and put on my armor and become more like a man. But anyway, you talk about that imbalance being really at the root of, so much trouble in the world.
Yeah, in my video, I get very clear when the pure creation, love creation, there are the spirit beings, and they are male and female, the polarity, plus and minus. Doesn't mean it's less minus, it's the same. And the thing is absolutely equal. And only because they are absolutely equal, the male and female, therefore it is harmony, therefore it is peace, therefore it is bliss in this environment. And the first thing these fallen angels did is to shift that totally and ignored the female and only evolved and developed and supported the male. And the woman became an accessory to be used, abused, sold as a slave over time. And we find this in all cultures, everywhere, where the woman has basically no chance. Small little pockets here and there where there may have been some equality, but the majority for thousands and thousands of years, they are all men run. Men ruled and make the decision in religions. Definitely, there is no female great famous leader in any religion. There is no one. Political are very, very few. And then we have got in the business as well, is mostly run by males. In the very important also the pharmacy and the medical field, all these, and the universities are mostly run by males, and they decide what gets published and what gets researched, etc. And science, of course, is male. So these are all these male domineering entities. And for a woman, it's very, very difficult to counteract. And if you want to get attention, then, as you say, a lot of women have to become very masculine, dress-wise and also in their way. It's not easy to do that in this, because the men just don't give the woman any chance. Even today, they just don't give them really chance. I mean, I'm just thinking there was some hope. I'm thinking about China, for instance. China really had, until very recently, they tried to make it as equal as possible. And then Mr. Qing come in and he throws out all the women from the government. Now when you see the thousands of people in the government, when he gives his talk, they're only males. All the women are thrown out. And the same is also in the town authority administrations and so on. They've gone right way back to male-dominated society in China, which was at the time, because of communism, there was a movement to keep them more equal. When you ask me what to do about it, I don't have the answer for it. I think this has to play itself out in a way, because I just don't know. Individually, of course, you can watch yourself of not to acquire the masculine attraction, but it is very difficult if you really want to become some leader in an organization and so on, you have to have some strengths. And ideally, of course, the strength should be your feminine strengths, but that can be still easily squashed by competing males.
Yeah, once we get on that path, and it sounds like we've been on this path since the very beginning, it's almost like we're going to be living in a world of war. Once that
Yeah.
imbalance happens, it's like that's the track we're on. You can get on that roller coaster or this one, and this could be a really fun roller coaster. This could be one that's really, really terrible for everybody. But it's like we're playing it out, and at some point, maybe things will get to a place where we are strong enough spiritually and we are firmly connected to our divinity and each other, and that we just make different choices. And it may happen in small pockets, but I do think that the energy of small pockets can impact the whole. That what we can do is, we only have control over ourselves. And and even when we rise ourselves up in energy, I think that impacts the vibration of the whole. So perhaps there'll be certain pockets of humanity that just make different choices. And maybe people will start putting their guns down. Maybe people will stop feeling like they have to defend themselves. I don't know. We don't have the answer, but I do want to end on hope.
Yeah, I think Margaret Mead mentioned something like it's always a small group actually which changed the world. It wasn't a big group in history. And it was one Gandhi which set a whole country free, and he had his followers. So I agree with that. I feel that before the women have a chance of equal right, most of the present structures as we know them have to come down.
Mhm.
Like the religions, they're really, I mean, people are already turning off from them in many ways. Others, of course, are getting very enthused by certain kind of negative religions. So that structure has fallen. Then we see the banking business is also not as solid as we like to think. The political structures are not very solid. And all these structures which make our societies will have to tumble down eventually. And once they're tumble down, we realize our technology, for instance, as well, then we may start not only may, we will start on a more equal and more sane kind of existence. because all these other things have been exploitive kind of systems. They're exploiting each other, and it's negative. But now we can start from the ground. We may not need all that stuff, what we had in the past. We definitely won't
Mhm.
need our religion. We don't need the big banks anymore. We don't need even technology. When we develop in ourselves the skills of reading each other's vibrations and using our power of thought like we used to be as a spirit being, where the power of thought projected us wherever we wanted to be. We communicated through telepathy, not through telephone, and so on. When we really become true of who we actually are, we don't need all these technical gadgets anymore. That's over. At the moment, we can't imagine living without AI and stuff like this. But I believe there comes a time it says, this is silly. I mean, we don't really need all these things because all these things have tremendously harmed and exploited planet Earth, destroyed this planet in many, many ways. And that has to stop, and it will stop. So, yes, maybe we have to go back right to ground zero, to not ground zero, sorry, to point zero, to really start off again when we are all inwardly ready and understand that what we did in the past, these companies, organization, etc., have not served us. When we all realize that way, maybe we turn to ourselves, to the God within ourselves, and let that be the guiding light in our life.
I think that's what this decade or this age is really about. They call it apocalyptic, which is like taking down the veil. So we see beyond the veil that's been put up in front of all poli- political leaders and bankers and religious leaders and medical leaders and all of that. I mean, you take that down and you see what's really there, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. And we decide, we want something else. We do have divine bodies. I mean, just take medicine for a moment. We do have divine bodies. Do we need to put all this stuff in it?
Oh, yeah.
We've been convinced of that, just like you talk about technology. It's kind of a clunky way of living. It's not like
Yeah.
really living as our
I
spiritual
like,
beings. It's like, yeah,
yeah. I
clunky.
like the word
So
clunky. It is. It is compared to where we are and what the potentiality in us. It's just immense, and we just have relied on cars and stuff like this, when in truth, we may not need them.
right, right, right. But I think that people do have a fear about it all coming down or what that would look like. And oh my gosh, I gotta hold on to what I know and what I love and what I depend on because that's just kind of natural. But that is the ego response. If we all know we're gonna be okay, we all know that we're eternal beings, and we all know, say, thank you, this is for my good, then we can participate in the death and rebirth that I think we're probably going through.
Yeah, and if the storm comes, should the storm come, it's not here to harm us. It's just to blow everything away what we no longer need.
Yes.
And I think if we really, and in the storm, if we learn now to really focus and hold on to the inner guidance, call it Christ, Jesus, God, whoever you wish to use, and learn that connection now and make that connection now, that will see you through more than anything else. And it's also
Yes.
something to remember is not everybody will necessarily have a very difficult future, even if all these structures may tumbling down, because some of them are here are not necessarily for karmic reasons, they come for other reasons, and they're not necessarily having this karmic experience like we have seen now in Ukraine, in Gaza, and so on. So I wouldn't say that we all have to go through difficult times. No, that's not necessary. Everybody will only face his own karma, and the karma may not be necessarily very bad. It may also be that we are here to help others in the situation when everything tumbles down, so that we are here to do service, because the highest form of love is service. And in a wartime situation or a difficult situation, like political situation or environmental situation, to help and to serve is a wonderful opportunity for a soul to grow.
I love that. I mean, I say this podcast is about hope, inspiration, and awakening, and that's what we've kinda ended our talk on, that there is hope and inspiration as we awaken to the truth of who we are. So we
Yeah.
have a few more minutes. I wanna give you the opportunity to say anything that you might not have I might not have given you the opportunity to say. Do you have anything else you wanna add?
No, I think we covered everything very nicely. I think I have one line here always: bring it on. Whenever I get fearful and so on, etc., that I bring it on, because that gives me this little curiosity, and so I will be able to face it because I'm not alone. This is the other important thing to realize, that we are never, ever, 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 ever alone. We have the divinity in us. We have got our guardian angel by our sides. We have got even other angels who can help us, and we can ask. So we are never, ever alone. And nobody has to face the situation alone, even if they're physically alone without a partner. You are never alone in this very, very short visit of 24,000 days. So make the most of it. It is an opportunity. It's a gift to be born here. We have all chosen it on our free will. We may not like it. We may not like what is coming, but we knew this prior our birth, and we knew that this would be the perfect time to set us free of burden which we carried on for far too long. It's just like suddenly we have got $10 million of debts, and now we go through a very difficult period for a few months, and the 10 million of debts are gone. We can breathe deeply again because we are free. The time which we are going through may be hard, but there are times of freeing ourselves. That is, we leave all the stuff behind us if we handle it wisely, if we use our free will wisely, and don't start to continue killing and harming others in the process when everybody else may be doing it, not to do it. I think that's the key.
I love that. That's a perfect, perfect note to end on. And of course, for me, I expand others to include all sentient beings. Just wanted to add that.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah,
Just wanted to
definitely.
add that. Yeah. What a pleasure. This was so fun. Hans, I'm going to have you on every year. I think we have really good conversations.
I love to be on with you again, Carol, and to see you again. And I wish you all the best with this program and with many other programs. And I'm sure we'll meet again. Thank you
We
again for
will.
having me.
We will. I'll have all your links on the podcast page. And everybody, thank you for joining us. Check out lifeexplained.com. There's so many interesting videos, and you can just be there for 5 minutes. You can be there for hours, but you'll find some spiritual nuggets all over that website. So thank you, everyone who's joined us. Thank you, Hans. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.